My name is Amelia, and at 34, I've built a successful career as a financial advisor in Chicago, far from the controlling grip of my mother, Catherine. Growing up was challenging with her endless rules and criticism, but nothing prepared me for last Thanksgiving. I paid for everything cooked for hours only to receive a special gift at dinner, a typed list of rules titled, "If you want to eat with us again." What my mother didn't know was that I'd discover her financial secrets and deliver my own gift 2 months later. Before I share what happened, where are you watching from today? If you've ever dealt with controlling family members, hit that subscribe button and join me on this journey. I grew up in a small Midwestern town where everyone knew everyone and appearances meant everything to my mother. Our modest 2-story house on Maple Street was always immaculate, with furniture you couldn't sit on and decorative towels you weren't allowed to use. Catherine Martin was known throughout town for her perfectionism and involvement in every community organization that might boost her social standing. My father, James, was the opposite kind, soft-spoken and perpetually passive. A high school math teacher who loved his students and his quiet evenings reading, he never stood up to my mother. Not when she criticized his clothes, his friends, or how he raised us. Their marriage seemed built on an unspoken agreement she would control everything, and he would retreat into his books. Then there was my younger brother, Tyler, 3 years my junior, and the undisputed favorite. While I struggled under the weight of Catherine's expectations, Tyler could do no wrong. His average grades were celebrated while my honors achievements were expected. His messy room was boyish charm, while my slightly disorganized desk was proof of your inability to manage basic responsibilities, Amelia. My teenage years were a battleground. Every choice became a power struggle, from the friends I made to the clothes I wore. Catherine monitored my phone calls, read my diary, and imposed curfews stricter than anyone else in school. Dating was forbidden until I was 17, and even then, any boy brave enough to come to our house faced an interrogation that sent most running. The financial manipulations started early. Birthday checks from grandparents mysteriously disappeared into your college fund, a fund I never saw. When I started working at 16, Catherine insisted I hand over 70% of each paycheck for household contributions and savings. Years later, I discovered those savings never existed. My money had funded Tyler's sports equipment and Catherine's community luncheons. College was my escape. Through sheer determination and secret applications completed at the school library, I earned scholarships to Northwestern University. Catherine was furious when I chose a school 5 hours away, but with financial aid and 3 part-time jobs, I finally tasted freedom. Those 4 years transformed me. I made true friends, excelled academically, and discovered my talent for financial planning, perhaps a subconscious response to the financial control I'd experienced. After graduation, I landed an entry-level position at a respected financial firm in Chicago. The starting salary was modest, but it was mine. My tiny studio apartment became my sanctuary, the first space where no one criticized my decorating choices or inspected the cleanliness of my bathroom. Over 10 years, I built my career methodically. Late nights researching investment strategies, weekend seminars to earn additional certifications, and a genuine desire to help clients secure their futures paid off. I moved into a beautiful condo overlooking Lake Michigan, made partner at my firm, and created a life that was authentically mine. During these years, contact with my family became increasingly limited. Holiday phone calls, occasional weekend visits that inevitably ended with me leaving early, emotionally drained. Catherine's criticism never softened with time or distance. My professional accomplishments were minimized. My single status at 34 was treated as a personal failure, and my independence was viewed as a rejection of family values. My father called monthly, our conversations pleasant but superficial. Tyler, now married with 2 children and working at a successful law firm, rarely reached out unless he needed something. I sent birthday gifts, Christmas presents, and attended major family events when I could emotionally prepare for them. It wasn't ideal, but it was manageable. Then last September, things changed. Catherine called on a Tuesday evening as I was preparing dinner. Her voice had that particular tone, the one that mixed martyrdom with accusation. "Your father and I haven't seen you in 8 months, Amelia. Tyler asks about you all the time." I doubted that, but said nothing. "We're having some financial difficulties," she continued. "Your father's retirement hasn't gone as planned, and some investments didn't pan out. I'm not sure we'll even have a proper Thanksgiving this year." The hint was obvious. Catherine never directly asked for help that would acknowledge weakness. Instead, she created scenarios where offering assistance was the only appropriate response. I should have recognized the manipulation. After all, I'd spent years helping clients identify unhealthy financial patterns. But family dynamics have a way of bypassing rational thought, and I found myself volunteering before I could think it through. "I could come home for Thanksgiving," I said, stirring my pasta. "I'd be happy to take care of the dinner. All of it." Catherine's response was immediate and practiced. "Oh, we couldn't possibly ask you to do that. You're so busy with your important career." 15 minutes later, I was committed to purchasing, preparing, and funding an entire Thanksgiving feast for 6 adults and 2 children. I hung up, feeling simultaneously manipulated and hopeful. Perhaps this gesture would finally bridge the gap between us. Perhaps Catherine would finally see me as the capable, generous adult I'd become. Looking back, I realize I was still that little girl desperate for her mother's approval. Some lessons take a lifetime to learn. The invitation had been extended and accepted. Now came the preparations. I spent hours planning the perfect Thanksgiving menu, incorporating traditional family favorites alongside new gourmet options I thought everyone might enjoy. I ordered a 20-pound organic turkey from a specialty butcher, selected wines to pair with each course, and spent over $500 on ingredients alone. I purchased thoughtful gifts as well. A leather-bound first edition of Hemingway for my father. A designer scarf I knew Catherine would appreciate, though she'd never admit it. Educational toys for Tyler's children, and a spa gift certificate for his wife Jessica, whom I barely knew but wanted to welcome. For my grandmother Marion, my mother's mother, and the only consistently supportive family member, I found a beautiful silver frame containing a childhood photo of us I'd had professionally restored. Taking 3 days off work was challenging during our busy season, but I arranged for colleagues to cover my client meetings and completed urgent projects in advance. The 5-hour drive to my hometown gave me time to mentally prepare rehearsing responses to inevitable questions about my relationship status and imagining positive interactions that might finally earn Catherine's approval. The familiar streets of Westfield looked smaller somehow. The landmarks of my childhood diminished by time and perspective. Turning onto Maple Street, I noticed subtle signs of neglect in my parents' usually pristine property. The paint on the trim was peeling slightly, the garden beds less meticulously maintained than in years past. It supported Catherine's claims of financial strain, and I felt a pang of sympathy. That feeling evaporated the moment Catherine opened the door. Her critical gaze swept over me from head to toe. "You look tired, Amelia. Those long hours aren't doing your complexion any favors. And your hair, is that the current style in Chicago? No hello. No thank you for coming. No acknowledgement of the 4 grocery bags I was struggling to hold. Just immediate criticism, as reliable as gravity." "It's good to see you too, Mom," I replied, stepping past her into the house. "Where should I put these groceries?" "The kitchen, obviously. Though I don't know where everything will fit. I've already purchased the essentials." This was surprising given her claims about financial difficulties, but I said nothing as I followed her through the living room. I noticed new furniture, a sectional sofa that looked expensive and out of place in their traditional home. Either their financial situation wasn't as dire as Catherine had suggested, or their priorities remained questionable. My father emerged from his study, genuine warmth in his smile. "There's my girl. Let me help with those bags." His hug was quick but sincere, and for a moment I remembered why I kept trying. He looked older gray now, dominating his once dark hair, reading glasses perched permanently on his nose. There was a weariness to him that hadn't been there at Christmas. Unpacking groceries in the kitchen revealed Catherine's definition of essentials, basic items I'd already purchased in higher quality versions. Rather than confront her about the unnecessary duplication or wasted money, I simply organized everything and began preparing dishes that could be made ahead. Throughout the evening, Catherine found reasons to enter the kitchen and rearrange my work. My knife technique was inefficient. The vegetables were cut too large or too small. The ingredients I'd chosen were too expensive or not the brands she preferred. Each criticism was delivered with a sigh or a tight smile, suggesting patient tolerance of my incompetence. That night, I lay in my childhood bedroom, surrounded by remnants of a person I barely recognized. Cheerleading trophies I'd earned to please Catherine. Academic awards that had never been quite good enough. A bookshelf of classics she'd insisted I read to appear cultured. Through the thin walls, I could hear my parents arguing. Catherine's sharp whispers contrasted with my father's quieter responses. She thinks she knows everything now. Coming here with her fancy ingredients and her big city attitude? She's just trying to help, Catherine. You said we couldn't afford Thanksgiving this year. That doesn't mean she needs to take over completely. And did you see how she looked at the new sofa, judging us for having nice things while going through a rough patch? I think you're overreacting. Amelia hasn't said anything about the furniture. She didn't need to say it. I know my own daughter. I pulled the pillow over my head, trying to block out the familiar pattern. Despite everything, I still hoped Thanksgiving Day would somehow be different. That the food and togetherness might temporarily suspend the dynamics that had defined our family for decades. Sleep came eventually, bringing dreams of elaborate dinners where no one sat at the table I had prepared. Thanksgiving morning arrived with pale November sunlight filtering through my childhood bedroom curtains. I'd set my alarm for 5:30, planning to start the turkey early and prepare the more complex sides before the house was bustling with activity. Pulling on jeans and a comfortable sweater, I made my way quietly downstairs. To my surprise, the kitchen lights were already on. Catherine stood at the counter, her posture rigid with disapproval as she examined my prepped ingredients from the night before. "Good morning," I offered, attempting to start the day positively. "Finally," she responded, not looking up. "I was beginning to think you'd sleep through your own dinner preparation." It wasn't yet 6 a.m. I bit back a response and moved to wash my hands. "I rearranged your ingredients," Catherine continued. "The way you had them organized made no sense whatsoever, and I adjusted the oven temperature for the turkey. 325 is too low. I've always roasted at 375. This was factually incorrect and would result in a dry turkey, but I knew from experience that culinary debates with Catherine were unwinnable. Instead, I waited until she left to get dressed, then readjusted the temperature back to the proper setting. By 8 o'clock, the turkey was in the oven, bread dough was rising for homemade rolls, and I was preparing the more complex side dishes. Catherine returned to the kitchen every 20 minutes with a new critique or unnecessary suggestion. Each time I acknowledged her input with a nod and continued my work once she left. At 10:30, the doorbell rang, announcing the arrival of Tyler, Jessica, and their children Emma, age 6, and Michael, age 4. Their entrance brought chaos and noise to the previously tense quiet. I welcomed the distraction emerging from the kitchen to greet them. Tyler had grown more polished with age. His tailored suit and designer watch spoke of financial comfort at odds with our parents' supposed struggles. Jessica, blonde and professionally highlighted, wore a simple but obviously expensive dress and diamond earrings that caught the light. The children were immaculately dressed in matching holiday outfits. "Aunt Amelia!" Emma ran toward me, arms outstretched. This genuine welcome warmed my heart until Catherine interceded. "Emma, careful of your dress. Amelia's been cooking all morning. She's probably covered in food. I glanced down at my perfectly clean sweater and jeans but said nothing. Tyler offered a brief side hug. Good to see you, sis. Place smells amazing. Thanks for doing all this. Jessica added her smile, not quite reaching her eyes. Catherine told us you insisted on handling everything. An interesting revision of events, but not worth correcting. I'm happy to do it. The kids have gotten so big. Emma, are you still enjoying ballet? Before Emma could answer, Catherine intervened. Let's get your coats put away. Tyler, your father wants to show you the new installation in the garage. Amelia, shouldn't you be checking something in the kitchen? The dismissal was clear. I returned to my cooking as the family migrated to the living room. Through the doorway, I watched Catherine orchestrating family photos, positioning Tyler and his family on the new sectional, James standing proudly behind them. Several configurations of photos were taken before Catherine finally called, Amelia, quick picture before you get back to the kitchen. One photo, standing awkwardly at the edge of the group still wearing my apron. Catherine examined the result and frowned. Your eyes were closed. Never mind, we have enough good ones. They weren't closed. I'd seen the preview image on her phone, but again, some battles weren't worth fighting. The arrival of Grandmother Marian at 11 brought the first genuinely supportive presence. At 82, she remained sharp observant and unwilling to tolerate Catherine's behavior. She entered the kitchen while everyone else was occupied in the living room and placed a gentle hand on my shoulder. It smells wonderful in here, Amelia. You're working too hard, though. Let me help. Thanks, Grandma, but I've got a system going. How have you been? Oh, getting by. These knees aren't what they used to be, but that's not important now. She lowered her voice. I saw how your mother has been treating you. Some things never change, do they? I shrugged, focusing on the cranberry sauce I was preparing. It's just 2 days. I'll survive. You always do. That's what worries me. Surviving isn't the same as thriving, sweetheart. Before I could respond, Catherine appeared in the doorway. Mother, you shouldn't be on your feet so much. Come sit in the living room where everyone can visit with you. Marian raised an eyebrow but complied, squeezing my hand before leaving. We'll talk later, she whispered. The hours before dinner passed in a blur of cooking, serving appetizers, and navigating family dynamics. Tyler boasted about his recent promotion and the vacation home they were considering in Aspen. Jessica detailed the children's numerous activities and achievements. My father occasionally attempted to include me in conversations asking about my work and life in Chicago. But Catherine invariably redirected these inquiries with comments like, let's not bore everyone with financial industry talk, or, Amelia's life is all work anyway. By the time we gathered at the dining table at 3 o'clock, I was emotionally exhausted, but proud of the meal I'd created. The table setting was elegant with my grandmother's china polished silver and fresh flower arrangements I'd ordered. The turkey was perfectly golden, the side dishes aromatic and beautifully presented. For a brief moment, as everyone took their seats, I felt a flicker of accomplishment. Then Catherine spoke. The table looks adequate, though I notice you've used the water goblets for wine. And are we using paper napkins for Thanksgiving now? The napkins were high-quality linen I'd brought from Chicago. I remained silent as everyone served themselves, waiting for the first reactions to the food. My father took an initial bite of turkey and smiled warmly. This is excellent, Amelia. So moist. It's different, Catherine commented. Not like I usually make it, but interesting. Tyler and Jessica complimented various dishes, though their praise felt perfunctory. The children predictably only wanted rolls and mashed potatoes. Grandmother Marian, however, was genuinely appreciative. Amelia, this cranberry sauce is divine. Did you use orange zest? And the stuffing has apricots, doesn't it? Such a lovely combination. The conversation initially revolved around the food, but inevitably shifted to more personal topics. Catherine waited until I had taken a bite of turkey before asking, So, Amelia, no special someone joining you for the holidays yet? 34 is getting rather late to start a family, you know. I carefully finished chewing and swallowed before responding. I'm focused on my career right now, Mom. If the right relationship happens, great. If not, I'm happy with my life as it is. That's very modern of you, Catherine replied with a tight smile. Though I wonder if your clients find it concerning that their financial advisor can't seem to commit to anything beyond work. The conversation then turned to family finances, with Catherine dramatically lamenting their situation. We've had to cut back on so many things. Your father's retirement portfolio just hasn't performed as expected. The market has been volatile, my father added vaguely. I glanced around the room at the new furniture, Catherine's obviously new designer watch, Tyler's expensive suit, and struggled to reconcile these observations with claims of financial hardship. If you'd like, I could look at your investment strategy, I offered cautiously. It's literally my job to help people optimize their retirement funds. Catherine's expression hardened. That's not necessary. We have our own financial advisor who understands our specific situation. Who are you working with? I asked, genuinely curious. Perhaps I know them. I doubt it, Catherine dismissed. And honestly, Amelia, it's Thanksgiving. Must you turn everything into a business opportunity? My grandmother caught my eye across the table and gave a small shake of her head, silently advising me to drop the subject. I nodded slightly and redirected the conversation to safer topics. After the main course, I brought out the desserts I'd prepared: pumpkin pie with homemade whipped cream, apple tart with caramel drizzle, and a chocolate bourbon pecan pie that was my personal favorite. As everyone enjoyed their selections, I excused myself briefly to start coffee brewing. When I returned, Catherine announced it was time for gifts. This wasn't a usual Thanksgiving tradition in our family, and I was momentarily confused until I remembered the presents I'd purchased. I have some things for everyone, I said, retrieving the carefully wrapped packages from my overnight bag. My father seemed genuinely touched by the rare book. Tyler and Jessica politely thanked me for their gifts. The children were delighted with their educational toys, immediately abandoning dessert to play with them on the living room floor. Grandmother Marion teared up at the restored photo. Oh, Amelia, this is precious. Look how small you were, and already so serious. She hugged me tightly. Thank you, sweetheart. Catherine examined her designer scarf with a critical eye. This is very bright. I typically wear more subdued colors now, but thank you for the thought. She then reached beside her chair and produced a sealed envelope, holding it out to me with an expression I couldn't quite read. I have something for you as well, Amelia. A little guidance I thought might be helpful. The table fell silent as I accepted the envelope. It was heavy stationery, my name typed on the front rather than handwritten. Something about the formality made me uneasy, but with everyone watching, I had no choice but to open it. Inside was a typed document with a title in bold letters: If you want to eat with us again. What followed was a numbered list of rules and requirements. My hands trembled slightly as I read. 1. Dress appropriately. No jeans. No work clothes. Nothing revealing. 2. Arrive at least 2 days before any family gathering to assist with preparation. 3. Do not attempt to take over or impose your preferences on family traditions. 4. Refrain from discussing your job salary or Chicago lifestyle. 5. Do not offer unsolicited financial or personal advice. 6. Accept parental guidance without argument or attitude. 7. Contribute financially to family gatherings without drawing attention to your contributions. 8. Do not monopolize conversations with your big city experiences. 9. Show proper respect and deference to family elders. 10. Remember that family loyalty comes before personal ambition. The list continued for another full page, each item more controlling and belittling than the last. The document concluded with, "These guidelines are provided to help you better integrate into family gatherings, as your behavior has consistently demonstrated a need for clear boundaries and expectations." The silence around the table was deafening. My father studied his coffee cup, avoiding eye contact. Tyler seemed uncomfortable but said nothing. Jessica busied herself with cutting her pie into increasingly tiny pieces. Only Grandmother Marion's expression showed appropriate shock and disapproval. "Catherine," she began. "What on earth?" Catherine interrupted smoothly. "It's simply some helpful feedback. Amelia struggles with social cues, and I thought having expectations spelled out might help her navigate family gatherings more successfully in the future." The casual cruelty left me speechless. Years of therapy had taught me to recognize emotional abuse to establish boundaries to respond rather than react. But in that moment, I was transported back to childhood, small and powerless against Catherine's absolute authority. "Excuse me," I managed to say, folding the paper and rising from the table. "I need a moment." I locked myself in the downstairs bathroom, hands shaking, breath coming in quick, shallow gasps. Through the door, I could hear the conversation continuing. "Was that really necessary, Catherine?" My grandmother's voice sharp with disapproval. "Mom's just trying to help." Tyler's voice. "Amelia has always been oversensitive." "Perhaps the timing could have been better," my father offered weakly. "If she can't accept constructive criticism, that's hardly my fault," Catherine replied. "This is exactly the behavior I'm talking about. Drama and disruption during a perfectly nice family dinner." In that moment, staring at my reflection in the bathroom mirror, something shifted inside me. I'd spent decades seeking approval I would never receive, trying to earn love that should have been unconditional. The rules weren't about helping me integrate into the family. They were about ensuring I remained in the role Catherine had assigned me, the difficult daughter, the family disappointment, the cautionary tale. I splashed cold waters on my face, refolded the paper, and made a decision. I wouldn't engage. I wouldn't argue. I would simply leave. When I emerged, I announced calmly that I wasn't feeling well and would be returning to Chicago that evening, rather than staying the weekend as planned. Catherine expressed performative concern and subtle accusations of ruining Thanksgiving. My father looked disappointed but unsurprised. Tyler barely looked up from his phone. Only Grandmother Marion followed me upstairs as I packed. "You don't have to leave, Amelia. Don't let her drive you away." "I'm not letting her drive me away, Grandma. I'm choosing to remove myself from a situation that isn't healthy for me. There's a difference." She nodded slowly. "You're right, of course. I just miss you when you're gone." I hugged her tightly. "I'll call you tomorrow. We'll make plans for just us soon." As I carried my bag downstairs, I was focused on maintaining dignity until I could reach my car. I didn't anticipate the discovery that would change everything. With my bag packed and my dignity barely intact, I headed downstairs to make my exit. Catherine was in the kitchen, ostentatiously cleaning up while making comments about all the work left to do. My father stood awkwardly in the hallway, clearly conflicted. "You don't have to leave tonight, Amelia. The roads will be busy with holiday travelers." "I'll be fine, Dad. I'd rather get back to my own place." I hesitated, then added, "I left all the leftovers packaged in the refrigerator. There's plenty for everyone for the weekend." He nodded, then lowered his voice. "Your mother means well. She just doesn't always express things tactfully." There was a time when I would have accepted this excuse, this enablement of Catherine's behavior. Not anymore. "That wasn't tact, Dad. That was cruelty. And you let it happen." The hurt in his eyes was genuine, but so was my pain. I turned toward the door, but realized I'd left my phone charger in the home office where I'd plugged it in earlier. "I need to grab one last thing." The office was dark, and in my haste, I knocked into a stack of papers on the desk, sending them scattering across the floor. Kneeling to gather them, the letterhead caught my attention. "Final notice of foreclosure." My hands froze. The document was dated just 1 week earlier and addressed to both my parents. It stated that the house would go to auction in January unless outstanding payments of $1,942 were made immediately. I quickly gathered the fallen papers, discovering more disturbing documents beneath. Credit card statements showing balances over $30,000. Collection notices for medical bills. a rejection letter for a home equity loan. Most shocking was a folder labeled Emergency Funds, containing loan documents with my name on them. My signature appeared on multiple forms, but it wasn't my handwriting. Someone had forged my signature on personal loans totaling over $65,000. My mind reeled. Identity theft. Forgery. These were serious crimes, and they appeared to have been committed by my own family. The comfortable retirement my parents claimed to have, the new furniture, Catherine's jewelry, possibly even Tyler's apparent success. How much of it was built on fraud? Did you find what you were looking for? Catherine's voice from the doorway made me jump. I turned, the foreclosure notice still in my hand. Her expression shifted from annoyance to alarm. You shouldn't be going through our personal papers. And you shouldn't be taking out loans in my name, I countered, holding up the forged documents. This isn't my signature, Mom. What have you done? Catherine's demeanor changed instantly, her face hardening into defiant righteousness. You owe us after all we've done for you. We put you through college. I had scholarships and student loans that I paid off myself. We raised you, supported your move to Chicago, helped you establish your career. You did everything possible to keep me from leaving home, criticized every career choice I made, and have never once visited me in Chicago. She waved dismissively. Details. The point is, families help each other. You have money. We needed some assistance. I knew you'd overreact if we asked directly. The casual admission of fraud left me breathless. Overreact? You committed identity theft. You could go to jail for this. Don't be dramatic. We're your parents. We're entitled to your support. The sound of footsteps in the hallway announced my father's arrival. What's going on in here? I held up the documents. Did you know about this? Did you know Mom has been taking out loans in my name? The color drained from his face. Catherine, you said Amelia had agreed to help us temporarily. She would have if I'd asked. I just skipped the unnecessary conversation, Catherine replied defensively. And keep your voice down. Tyler and Jessica don't need to hear this. Tyler doesn't know? I asked, though something in her expression told me otherwise. Tyler has his own family to worry about. His legal expertise was simply helpful in understanding certain financial options. The pieces clicked together. He helped you do this. He knew you were committing fraud using my identity. It's not fraud when it's family, Catherine insisted. And keep your voice down. Too late. Grandmother Marion appeared in the doorway, leaning heavily on her cane. What's happening, Amelia? You look upset. I hesitated, not wanting to distress her, but Catherine's next words eliminated any need for explanation. Amelia is being selfish again, making a fuss about helping family financially when she has more than enough. By helping, do you mean the loans you took out in her name? My grandmother asked sharply. Or perhaps you mean the reverse mortgage you convinced me to sign last year, the one where most of the money somehow went to your accounts instead of mine. Catherine's eyes widened. Mother, you're confused. We've discussed this. I'm old, Catherine, not stupid. She turned to me. Amelia, I've suspected financial impropriety for some time. Your mother convinced me to sign papers that I later discovered had significantly different terms than what she explained. The revelation that Grandmother Marion had also been victimized ignited something fierce within me. One thing to defraud me, I was young, successful, could eventually recover financially. But to steal from an elderly woman on a fixed income was unconscionable. How could you? I asked Catherine, my voice breaking. Your own mother. You don't understand the pressure we've been under, she snapped. Your father's pension isn't enough. The market crashed, medical bills piled up. We had to maintain our standing in the community. By stealing, by committing fraud, by buying new furniture, while facing foreclosure. Tyler appeared in the doorway, his expression guarded. What's all the shouting about? I turned to him, holding up the loan documents. Did you help Mom forge my signature on these? His momentary hesitation was answer enough. "You need to calm down, Amelia. This is a family matter that can be resolved privately." "It ceased being just a family matter when you committed federal crimes using my identity," I replied, gathering all the incriminating documents. "I'm taking these with me." "You can't do that. Those are private papers." Catherine lunged forward, but my father held her back. "Catherine, stop. This has gone far enough." I looked at my father, seeing real fear in his eyes for perhaps the first time. "Did you know about all this?" He shook his head slowly. "Not everything. Not the extent of it. I knew we were struggling financially, but Catherine handled the details." I should have asked more questions. Grandmother Marion placed a supportive hand on my arm. "Take the papers, Amelia. Do what you need to do." I gathered everything into my bag, my mind already processing next steps. Credit reports, police reports, fraud alerts. The enormity of what lay ahead was overwhelming, but not as devastating as the betrayal I'd just uncovered. "I'll be in touch through legal channels," I said, my voice steadier than I felt. "Don't attempt to contact me otherwise." Catherine's face contorted with rage and disbelief. "After everything we've done for you, this is how you repay family loyalty with threats." The irony of her invoking family loyalty after what she'd done was too much. Without another word, I walked out, helping Grandmother Marion to the living room before continuing to my car. The drive back to Chicago was a blur of tears and phone calls to my bank's 24-hour fraud line, to credit reporting agencies, to a lawyer friend who specialized in identity theft. By the time I reached my condo, I'd initiated the first steps to protect myself financially, but the emotional wound was still raw and bleeding. Standing in my own kitchen, the space I'd created, the life I'd built, I finally allowed myself to feel the full impact of the betrayal. Not just the financial crimes, though those were serious enough, but the fundamental violation of trust that should exist between parent and child, the weaponization of familial obligation, the calculated exploitation of my success. The painful truth was that my mother had never seen me as a person worthy of respect or love. I was a resource to be utilized, an extension of her will, a reflection of her image. And when I failed to conform to her expectations, I became an obstacle to overcome by any means necessary. That night, as I filed police reports and canceled credit cards, I made a promise to myself this would be the last time Catherine's actions determined my choices. The last time her cruelty would disrupt my peace. The path ahead would be difficult, but I would walk it on my own terms, and I would ensure that justice, both legal and personal, would finally be served. The next morning, I awoke in my own bed, feeling both exhausted and strangely liberated. The emotional whiplash of the previous day had left me drained, but there was clarity in finally seeing the full truth of my family dynamic. No more illusions, no more desperate attempts to earn love that would never be freely given. My first call was to Emily Johnston, a close friend who worked as a financial crimes specialist at my bank. Despite it being the day after Thanksgiving, she agreed to meet me at a coffee shop near my condo. "Identity theft is always serious," she explained, examining the documents I'd brought. "But when it's perpetrated by family members, it becomes even more complicated, emotionally and legally." "I don't care about the complications," I told her. "I want this addressed properly." She nodded, understanding the resolve beneath my calm exterior. "First step is a comprehensive credit report from all 3 bureaus. I'll help you file the necessary fraud alerts and identity theft reports. Then we need to contest every fraudulent account." My next call was to Sandra Patel, an attorney friend who specialized in financial law. She agreed to meet us at the coffee shop, arriving with a leather portfolio and a sympathetic expression that didn't interfere with her professional demeanor. "You'll need to file a police report," she advised after reviewing the situation. That's going to be the hardest part emotionally, but it's essential for disputing the fraudulent accounts and protecting yourself from liability. Filing a police report against my own mother was indeed difficult. The officer at the station treated me with professional courtesy, but couldn't hide his surprise when I explained the situation. Family fraud cases are more common than people realize, he assured me. But most victims don't come forward. They feel ashamed or protective even when they're the ones being harmed. I provided copies of the loan documents, the forged signatures, bank statements showing withdrawals I hadn't authorized. My hands trembled slightly as I signed the official complaint, but my resolve never wavered. What happens next? I asked. We'll investigate and forward our findings to the prosecutor's office. They'll determine whether to press charges. Given the amount involved and the clear evidence of forgery, there's a strong case here. The next 2 weeks were consumed with paperwork, phone calls, and meetings. Each day revealed new aspects of Catherine's deception. Credit cards opened in my name, personal loans, even attempts to access my retirement accounts that had fortunately been thwarted by security measures. The total damage exceeded $120,000, nearly twice what I'd initially discovered. My credit score, once exemplary, had plummeted due to missed payments on accounts I hadn't known existed. The loans taken in my name had funded not only my parents' lifestyle, but also I discovered a substantial loan to Tyler for the down payment on his vacation property in Aspen. Through it all, my phone buzzed constantly with messages from family members. Catherine alternated between tearful pleas and vicious accusations. My father begged for understanding without actually apologizing. Tyler sent threatening texts about destroying the family and career consequences if I proceeded legally. Only grandmother Marion offered genuine support. During our weekly phone calls, she shared her own experience with Catherine's financial manipulation. She convinced me I needed a reverse mortgage to cover medical expenses, she explained. Said she'd handle everything, I just needed to sign. 6 months later, I discovered most of the money had gone directly to her and your father. When I confronted her, she said it was for family emergency funds that I'd agreed to. I'm so sorry, Grandma. I had no idea. Neither did I until it was too late. My own daughter. Her voice broke slightly. But I'm proud of you, Amelia. Standing up to her after all these years. Working with Sandra, I established a legal plan to address both my situation and my grandmother's. We filed additional reports detailing the exploitation of an elderly person, which carried more severe penalties. A financial advisor colleague helped Marion secure her remaining assets and develop a sustainable budget given her new circumstances. Throughout this period, I continued working, finding solace in helping my clients secure their financial futures legitimately. The irony wasn't lost on me. I spent my days protecting others' financial well-being, while my own had been secretly undermined by those who should have protected me. Therapy became an essential part of my routine. Dr. Lindsay helped me process the complex emotions surrounding the betrayal, the anger, grief, guilt, and ultimately, resolve. Family financial abuse carries unique trauma, she explained during one session. The violation isn't just financial. It's a fundamental breach of the most basic trust. Children expect protection from parents, not exploitation. I keep wondering if I could have prevented this, I admitted. If I should have seen the signs earlier. The responsibility lies entirely with those who committed the fraud, Amelia. You were victimized precisely because you trusted your family, as any child should be able to do. As December progressed, I received an unexpected document in my professional email, a notification that my parents' house was officially scheduled for foreclosure auction on January 15th. The date immediately registered Catherine's 63rd birthday. I hadn't planned this timing, but something about it felt appropriate. Catherine had deliberately chosen Thanksgiving, a day meant for gratitude and family, to deliver her humiliating list of rules. Perhaps there was poetic justice in her receiving news of the final consequence of her actions on her birthday. The foreclosure notice forced me to confront a question I'd been avoiding. Should I bail my parents out financially? Despite everything, they were still my family. My father, while complicit through inaction, seemed genuinely unaware of the extent of Catherine's schemes. Could I let them lose their home? I brought the question to my next therapy session. What do you think would happen if you paid off their debts? Dr. Lindsay asked. They'd be relieved, grateful maybe, at least initially. And then, I considered the pattern established over decades. Then nothing would change. Catherine would see it as validation that her methods work, that eventually I'll always give in, that there are no real consequences for her actions. What would helping them cost you beyond the money itself? My self-respect, I answered immediately. My boundaries, the progress I've made in establishing a healthy life separate from their manipulation. Dr. Lindsay nodded. Sometimes the kindest thing we can do for others is allow them to experience the natural consequences of their actions. It's how we all learn and grow. By mid-December, I had made my decision. I would not intervene in the foreclosure. I would proceed with the identity theft case. I would establish firm boundaries with my family and maintain them regardless of emotional appeals. And I would personally deliver the foreclosure information to Catherine on her birthday, not out of vengeance, but as a clear message that the dynamics between us had permanently changed. The plan crystallized during a conversation with Grandmother Marion, who had decided to move into a senior community near my Chicago condo. "You're sure about this?" she asked when I explained my intention. "It will be difficult." "I'm sure. It needs to be done in person. I need to see it through to really close this chapter." She considered this, then nodded slowly. "Then I'll go with you. For support, and because I have my own things to say to Catherine." Together we prepared for one final confrontation, not with anger or vengeance, but with clarity, strength, and the unshakable knowledge that we deserved better than what we had received. January 15th dawned cold and bright, the kind of winter day where sunlight reflects blindingly off snow but provides no actual warmth. Grandmother Marion and I had stayed overnight at a hotel in my hometown, neither of us willing to accept Catherine's inevitable insistence that we stay at the house. Over breakfast, we reviewed our approach one final time. We stay calm no matter what, I reminded myself as much as her. We deliver the documents, say what needs to be said, and leave. No getting drawn into arguments or manipulation. Marion nodded, her hand steady as she stirred her tea. At 82, she had found a strength in recent weeks that seemed to have stripped away years. I've been practicing what I want to say for decades. Today, I finally will. We arrived at the house at 2 o'clock, the time Catherine traditionally held her birthday gatherings. The driveway was filled with cars, including Tyler's luxury SUV and several I didn't recognize. Apparently, the financial reckoning hadn't dampened Catherine's determination to maintain appearances. Marion squeezed my hand as we approached the door. "Remember who you are, Amelia, not who she tried to make you believe you were." I rang the doorbell, the gift-wrapped box tucked under my arm, feeling suddenly heavy with significance. After a moment, the door swung open to reveal Jessica, who froze momentarily in surprise. "Amelia and Marion, we weren't expecting you." "It's Catherine's birthday," I replied simply. "We brought a gift." Before Jessica could respond, voices from the living room grew louder, and Tyler appeared in the hallway. His expression shifted from confusion to wariness when he saw us. "What are you doing here?" The hostility in his voice was unmistakable. "We've come to see your mother on her birthday," Marion answered firmly. "I believe that's still permitted." Without waiting for permission, she stepped past Jessica into the house, her cane tapping authoritatively on the hardwood floor. After a moment's hesitation, I followed. The living room fell silent as we entered. 10 or 12 guests, local friends of my parents, sat awkwardly among half-empty cake plates and champagne flutes. Catherine, positioned in an armchair like a queen holding court, froze mid-sentence. For a moment, nobody moved. Then Catherine's social training took over and her face transformed into a mask of pleasant surprise. "Amelia, mother, what an unexpected delight." Her voice carried just the right note of warmth, though her eyes remained cold. "Everyone, my daughter has come all the way from Chicago for my birthday. Isn't that wonderful?" The guests, clearly aware of some underlying tension but unsure of its nature, murmured polite greetings. My father stood from his seat, his expression a complicated mix of hope and anxiety. "Amelia, it's good to see you. And you too, Marion." Catherine rose gracefully, moving toward me with arms outstretched, as if for an embrace. "What a lovely surprise. We've been so worried about you disappearing like that after Thanksgiving. All those terrible accusations, but that's behind us now, isn't it? Family is family." Her ability to rewrite reality was truly remarkable. In her version of events, I had simply disappeared after making terrible accusations, and my arrival today represented an implicit apology and reconciliation. I stepped back, avoiding her attempted embrace. "Happy birthday, Mom. We brought you something." Catherine's smile faltered slightly at my rejection, but recovered quickly. "How thoughtful. Shall I open it now?" "Please do," Grandmother Marion replied, lowering herself into a vacant chair. "We specifically wanted to see your reaction." A flicker of uncertainty crossed Catherine's face, but with her audience watching, she had little choice but to proceed. She took the box, noting its weight with a raised eyebrow, and carefully unwrapped it at the coffee table. Inside was a document box with a simple card that read, "Consequences." Catherine's smile became fixed as she removed the lid and saw the contents. The box contained 3 sets of documents, each in a labeled folder. The first folder, labeled Identity Theft, contained copies of the police reports I'd filed, statements from credit bureaus confirming the fraud, and notifications that all fraudulent accounts had been removed from my credit history, along with formal notices that criminal charges were being pursued against Catherine and Tyler. The second folder, labeled Elder Financial Abuse, held similar documentation regarding Grandmother Marion's case, including legal filings to recover misappropriated funds from the reverse mortgage scheme. The third folder, labeled Foreclosure, contained the official notice that the house would be auctioned on January 30th, along with documentation showing all the missed mortgage payments and failed loan modification attempts. Catherine's hands trembled as she paged through the documents. The color drained from her face, her carefully applied makeup suddenly stark against her pallor. When she finally looked up, the mask had completely fallen away, revealing raw fury and disbelief. "How dare you?" she whispered, then louder. "How dare you come into my home on my birthday with this garbage?" The guests shifted uncomfortably, some gathering their belongings, sensing the celebration had definitely concluded. "Perhaps we should go," one woman suggested, rising from her seat. "No," Catherine snapped. "Stay. I want witnesses to this betrayal. My own daughter and mother conspiring against me after everything I've done for them." I remained calm, my voice steady. "No one is conspiring against you, Mom. These are simply the consequences of actions you chose to take, crimes you chose to commit." "Crimes, don't be melodramatic. I borrowed money that you clearly didn't need given your fancy Chicago lifestyle. Money that stayed in the family. You forged my signature. You stole my identity. You damaged my credit score and financial reputation that I spent years building. Those are crimes, not family loans." Tyler stepped forward, his attorney persona taking over. "You know these charges will never stick, Amelia. No judge will send a mother to jail for helping herself to family resources." "That's where you're wrong," Grandmother Marion interjected. The district attorney was quite interested in a case involving both identity theft and elder financial abuse, particularly given the amounts involved and the clear paper trail. The guests were now openly gathering their coats and purses, mumbling awkward birthday wishes and thanks as they edged toward the door. Within minutes, only family remained in the living room, the half-eaten birthday cake, a surreal centerpiece to our confrontation. Catherine turned to my father, who stood pale and silent. "James, say something, defend our family." My father looked older than his 65 years as he finally spoke. "What is there to defend, Catherine? You forged our daughter's signature. You manipulated your own mother. You've been lying to me about our finances for years." He turned to me, his eyes pleading. "Amelia, I truly didn't know the extent of it. I should have asked more questions, been more involved, but you were a coward," Catherine interrupted bitterly. "Always letting me handle the difficult things while you hid behind your books in your classroom." "Yes," he admitted quietly. "I was a coward. I looked the other way because confronting you was too hard. That stops today." Tyler's composure was cracking. "This is insane. We can work this out privately. Amelia, if you proceed with these charges, you're destroying this family. Is that what you want?" "The family was destroyed long before today," I replied. "It was destroyed by lies, manipulation, and exploitation. By treating love as a transaction and family obligations as a blank check." Catherine's fury shifted to calculation as she recognized her usual tactics had failed. Her expression softened into practiced vulnerability. "Amelia, sweetheart, I know I've made mistakes. I was desperate to maintain the lifestyle we've all enjoyed, to keep up appearances. Surely you can understand that we can work through this together as a family." For a moment, I glimpsed the skilled manipulator who had controlled my emotional responses for decades. The woman who could make me doubt my own perceptions, question my own worth, sacrifice my own needs to earn approval that never came. "No, Mom, we can't. Not anymore." Grandmother Marion rose from her chair, standing tall despite her years. "Catherine, I've watched you manipulate and control others my entire life. I blamed myself for not protecting Amelia from your emotional abuse when she was young. I won't make that mistake again." Catherine's face contorted with rage, the mask of contrition discarded completely. "After everything I've done for this family, the sacrifices I've made, this is how you repay loyalty, with betrayal and public humiliation." "This isn't betrayal," I said quietly. "It's boundaries. It's consequences. It's the end of allowing you to define reality for all of us." I placed a final envelope on the coffee table. "This contains information about affordable apartments near here. A job counselor who specializes in retraining for people your age. Resources for financial counseling. Use them or don't, that's your choice. But the days of solving your problems by exploiting others are over." Catherine lunged for the documents, scattering them across the floor. "Get out! Get out of my house!" "It's not your house anymore," Grandmother Marion reminded her gently. "That's rather the point." We left without further confrontation, despite Catherine's continued shouting. My father followed us to the door, his expression a complex mixture of grief, regret, and something that might have been relief. "Amelia, he began, then stopped, seemingly at a loss. "I know, Dad. Call me when you've figured out your next steps. Without her influence." He nodded, tears forming in his eyes. "I'm sorry. For everything I didn't do. Everything I didn't see." "Me too," I replied, meaning it. We had both lost decades to Catherine's manipulation, though in very different ways. As Grandmother Marion and I walked back to my car, the winter sun was beginning to set, casting long shadows across the snow-covered lawn. The house that had contained so much of my childhood pain looked smaller, somehow less imposing. "Are you all right?" Marion asked, tucking her arm through mine. I considered the question seriously. "Not yet, but I will be." Driving away from my hometown that evening felt different from every previous departure. For the first time, I wasn't fleeing an emotional distress or counting the days until guilt would draw me back. I was simply moving forward toward a future I would define on my own terms. The legal proceedings continued for months. Catherine and Tyler both faced charges, eventually accepting plea deals that included probation, mandatory financial counseling, and restitution payments. My father filed for divorce after 40 years of marriage and moved temporarily into grandmother Marion's old house while he rebuilt his life. My own healing progressed more slowly but steadily. With therapy support from true friends and the daily practice of enforcing healthy boundaries, I gradually reclaimed my sense of self-worth. My credit was restored, my financial security reestablished, and eventually, my trust in my own judgment renewed. 6 months after that final confrontation, I accepted a partnership position at a prestigious financial firm in Boston. The move represented not an escape, but an opportunity, a chance to build something new based on my talents and choices, rather than reactions to old wounds. Grandmother Marion thrived in her Chicago senior community, developing friendships and pursuing long-neglected interests in art and community theater. We had dinner together weekly, building the kind of loving, respectful family relationship I had always craved. My father and I established a cautious new connection, one based on honest communication, rather than the avoidance and appeasement that had characterized our previous relationship. He found a teaching position at a community college, rediscovering his passion for education, free from Catherine's constant criticism. As for Catherine and Tyler, I maintained strict no-contact boundaries. Occasionally, news would reach me through mutual acquaintances, Catherine working at a local department store, Tyler's law practice struggling after the scandal. I wished them neither harm nor particular success. They simply existed in a past I had finally put behind me. The most valuable lesson from this painful journey was the understanding that love, real love, doesn't come with conditions, rules, or balance sheets. It doesn't demand sacrifices of dignity or identity. It doesn't require endless efforts to earn what should be freely given. True family, I discovered, can be chosen as well as born. It's built on mutual respect, honesty, and the freedom to be authentically yourself without fear of rejection or exploitation. Some people have asked if I regret delivering that final confrontation on Catherine's birthday, if the timing was unnecessarily cruel. I don't see it that way. It wasn't about vengeance, but about claiming my own power in a relationship where I had been systematically disempowered since childhood. The greatest gift I gave myself wasn't the satisfaction of Catherine's shocked face when she opened that box. It was the knowledge that I had finally stopped seeking her approval, stopped fearing her judgment, stopped allowing her definition of me to override my own. Have you ever had to set difficult boundaries with family members who couldn't respect your autonomy, or discovered that someone you trusted had been deceiving you financially? Share your experience in the comments below. Remember that seeking help isn't weakness. It's the first step toward reclaiming your power. If this story resonated with you, please like, subscribe, and share with someone who might need to hear that they're not alone in their struggle. Thank you for listening to my journey, and I wish you strength in creating the healthy relationships you deserve.